Bonjour et toutes et à tous et merci de vous joindre à nous. Je m'appelle Tanya et je suis ministre des Arts, de la Culture et de la Condition féminine. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge that Calgary is on Treaty 7 territory, home to the Blackfoot Confederacy of the Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani, as well as the Tsuut'ina and Stoney Nakoda nations of Bearspaw, Chickasha, and Goodstoney. I also acknowledge the Métis people of Alberta who have a deep connection with this land. Je remercie la ministre Searle Turton, Monsieur Louis Grenet, merci, président du conseil d'administration du Centre d'appui familial, Monsieur Adam Brown, treasurer de l'Association canadienne-française de l'Alberta, de se joindre à moi dans le cadre de cette annonce importante pour la francophonie en Alberta. Cette annonce vise à reconnaître les contributions actuelles et futures de francophones en Alberta. Le français a été la première langue européenne parlée dans notre province et il s'agit de la langue parlée le plus couramment après l'anglais de nos jours. Les Albertaines et Albertains francophones ont des racines profondes dans l'histoire de l'Alberta et ils continuent de jouer un rôle important dans notre culture. That is why I am happy to share the progress we have made with Alberta's French Policy Action Plan. This progress is possible in part because Budget 2024 increased funding to $4 million to enhance services and supports in French so French-speaking Albertans can access the resources they need in their language of choice. Guided by our French Policy Action Plan, more services in sectors like early childhood education, culture, and history are now available, thanks to successful negotiations for a new bilateral funding with the federal government. Après des décennies de financement stagnant, je suis heureuse d'annoncer que nous avons réussi à négocier une augmentation de financement fédéral pour les services en français. The Canada-Alberta Agreement on French Language Services is providing our province with $2.25 million a year for a total of $11.25 million over 5 years. And through the Francophone Secretariat, we are supporting ministries across government to implement Alberta's French Policy Action Plan. Of course, funding for the Secretariat is a fraction of what Alberta's government invests in programs and services for French-speaking Albertans in priority sectors such as health, justice, and French language education programs. Meaningful actions to enhance services in French are being implemented right across government, guided by Alberta's French policy. Comme nous l'avons annoncé plus tôt cette année, nous avons mis à jour notre plan d'action en nous fiant aux commentaires que nous avons reçus de parties prenantes francophones. The plan builds on the substantial work we have done in recent years and pledges to implement more than 100 initiatives to support the francophonie in Alberta. These are specific actions that are relevant and meaningful to French-speaking Albertans. We have already made excellent strides across government in the areas of health, justice, seniors, to name just a few, as well as government-wide supports. For example, more than 290 pages are now available in French on alberta.ca, and more government services materials are being offered in French. And we have more funding for essential programs in French through the Ministry of Children and Family Services, which we will talk about soon. Au ministère des Arts, de la Culture et de la condition féminine, nous continuons d'améliorer merci, l'accès et des expériences culturelles en français et de préserver notre histoire francophone. We have translated training webinars for the nonprofit sector in French, which will help many francophone organizations in the province. The Royal Alberta Museum continues to provide its exhibits in French. The Provincial Archives of Alberta now has an additional French-speaking employee, an archives technician, to help preserve Alberta's francophone history and heritage. We are proud of the work that has been done to date on implementing Alberta's French policy, especially what we have managed to do in this year alone, thanks to long overdue additional resources. While we roll out our new action plan, I will continue to meet with francophone stakeholders to ensure their voices are heard and their priorities are incorporated in government policies and actions. Parce que nous valorisons la francophonie albertaine, que nous voulons voir le français prospérer et que le francophone se sentent les bienvenus dans notre province. Merci. I would now like to turn the floor over to my colleague, Minister of Children and Family Services, Searle Turton.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to take a moment to thank Minister Furr for her tireless work on behalf of Alberta's Francophonie community, as well as the folks here at Centre d'Appui Familial Sud Alberta here in Calgary for hosting us and for your commitment to supporting Francophonie families here in Southern Alberta. Language should never be a barrier to any family to access the supports and services that improve their safety and well-being. And that's why I'm so pleased that we are providing the Francophonie Family Resource Network with an additional $2.1 million over 3 years to ensure more Francophonie families can stay and grow together in the language of their choice, which will improve outcomes for their children and youth. Our Family Resource Networks, or FRNs, they offer programs and resources that promote childhood development, enhance caregiver skills, and increase opportunities for cultural and social connections within communities while helping Alberta families stay resilient, strong, and healthy. They help Albertans learn how to cope with stressors and navigate challenges in their day-to-day lives in healthy ways, which in turn help families avoid the need for more intensive child intervention services and reduces the number of children who come into government care. And that's why our government provides $66.7 million annually to support the incredible, life-changing work that our family resource networks do. Through this targeted investment in the Francophonie FRN, we're enhancing access to these services and resources for French-speaking children, youth, and families. The Francophonie FRN includes agencies in Edmonton and Calgary that offer free programs and supports in French, so that French-speaking Albertans can receive the supports and services that they require. The Institut Guy Lecomte de la Famille provides support to French-speaking families through parenting education, child development programs, and support for youth and community connection, all the while helping participants enhance and maintain their French language skills. Société de la Petite Enfance de la Famille du Sud d'Alberta provides a variety of services to children ages 0 to 18, such as child and youth development, promoting well-being and developing social skills and problem-solving techniques. They're focusing on strengthening parenting knowledge, providing social supports, and improving access to community resources. Through the Canada-Alberta Agreement on French Language Services, this increased funding will help the Francophonie FRN agencies address waitlist pressures while improving access to services in French in rural communities right across our province. And this is so important because almost 3,000 families accessed Francophonie FRNs last year, and an additional 1,500 Francophonie participants accessed programs at other FRNs right across the province. That's why our Francophonie FRN partners have already started utilizing the funding to invest in satellite offices, just like the one that just opened in Red Deer a couple weeks ago. It's clear that FRNs are making a positive impact on families and communities, leading to better mental, physical, social, and emotional well-beings for the children and youth who participate, and improved knowledge and skills for parents and caregivers so that they can overcome challenges, improve communication skills, and maintain positive connections with their children. FRNs also offer group programming to help young children to grow and develop, and for youth to learn new skills and connect to their culture. Through Francophone FRNs, French-speaking families have access to culturally appropriate supports that honor their first language, fostering social connections and child development in a meaningful and inclusive way. All the while families embrace and maintain their French language and cultural heritage. So thank you again, Minister Fur, for continuing to support and engage members of Alberta's Francophone community and for helping us ensure improved access to French services and resources for children and youth and families. And thank you again to our hosts and to everyone for being here today. Merci beaucoup. And now I'd like to invite Louis Grenier, Board President, to the podium to say a few words.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre, Madame la Ministre. Thank you, Ministers. Anyway. Le Centre d'appui familial du Sud de l'Alberta apprécie le fait que les 3 niveaux gouvernementaux du Canada reconnaissent l'importance du bien-être des familles sous toutes ses formes. Cette reconnaissance a permis aux employés du Centre dirigé par Mouna Gasmi, notre directrice générale, et par leurs prédécesseurs d'appuyer les familles de maintes façons. La mission indique que le Centre d'appui familial œuvre dans les domaines du soutien parental et du développement sain des enfants et des jeunes. Il outille les familles francophones, francophiles et exogames dans le sud de l'Alberta, du sud de Lacombe à la frontière sud avec les États-Unis, par le biais de programmes, activités et ressources en français pour développer leur résilience et leur bien-être. Nous sommes reconnaissants que dans les derniers mois, le gouvernement provincial a su reconnaître les efforts des employés du centre en assurant une augmentation des ressources financières du réseau de ressources familiales, nous permettant d'offrir des services aux familles francophones préalablement seulement offerts par nos organismes sœurs anglophones. Ceci saura aider à assurer l'avenir de notre province par la force de nos familles et de nos enfants. Cette augmentation des ressources financières provenant du gouvernement provincial permettra au Centre d'appui familial, anciennement connu sur le SPEFSA, de faire de grands pas vers sa vision, d'où chaque famille du sud de l'Alberta est soutenue, épanouie et réalise son plein potentiel en nous permettant d'offrir aux francophones du sud de l'Alberta du counseling gratuit, un soutien personnalisé, des conseils et des ressources adaptées aux besoins spécifiques. The Southern Alberta Family Support Centre appreciates the fact that the 3 Canadian government levels recognize the importance of the well-being of families in all its forms. This recognition has enabled the employees of the centre, led by our Executive Director Mouna Gasmi and their predecessors, to support families in many ways. Our mission states that the Family Support Centre is working in the areas of parental support and healthy child and youth development. It supports francophone, francophile, and exogamous families in southern Alberta, covering areas from south of Lacombe to the southern border with the USA, through programs, activities, and resources in French to develop their resilience and well-being. We are grateful that in the last few months, the provincial government has recognized the efforts of the centre's employees by increasing financial resources of the Family Resource Network, allowing us to provide services for francophone families previously only offered by our anglophone sister organizations. This will help to ensure the future of our province contingent on the strength of our families and children. This increase in financial resources from the provincial government will allow the Family Support Centre, Centre d'appui familial, to make significant strides toward its vision of where every family in southern Alberta is supported, fulfilled, and realizes its potential, by enabling us to provide free counseling, personalized support, advice, and resources tailored to the specific needs of francophones in southern Alberta. Thank you. Before I pass it over to Adam Brown, there will be a buffet upstairs. Et merci, et à vous la parole, Adam Brown.
Madame la ministre, Monsieur le ministre, Monsieur Grenier et chers partenaires et membres de la communauté, bonjour. C'est avec beaucoup de fierté et de reconnaissance que je prends la parole aujourd'hui au nom de la CFA, l'organisme porte-parole de la francophonie albertaine depuis bientôt 100 ans. L'annonce d'aujourd'hui marque une étape historique pour la francophonie albertaine. La nouvelle entente Canada-Alberta sur les services en français représente une avancée majeure. Avec une augmentation du financement qui passe de 650 000 à plus de 2 millions de dollars par année pour les 6 prochaines années. Nous sommes très heureux de constater cette bonification financière qui reflète enfin la reconnaissance de la croissance démographique et de l'importance de la francophonie albertaine. Depuis plusieurs années, l'ACFA a mené de nombreuses démarches de représentation auprès du gouvernement fédéral et provincial pour souligner cette croissance impressionnante, pour faire valoir les besoins croissants de nos communautés francophones et réclamer notre juste part du financement. Nous avons plaidé avec vigueur pour les investissements qui répondent à ces besoins et aujourd'hui, nous voyons le fruit de ces efforts. Nous tenons donc à remercier sincèrement les 2 paliers du gouvernement pour l'aboutissement de cette négociation et cette réussite que nous célébrons ensemble aujourd'hui. Grâce à ce financement accru, le gouvernement de l'Alberta pourra poursuivre la mise en œuvre de la centaine d'actions stratégiques prévues dans le plan d'action de la politique en matière de francophonie de l'Alberta dévoilé plus tôt cette année. Cela se traduira par des améliorations concrètes pour les Albertains et les Albertaines d'expression française, et ce, dans des secteurs clés tels que l'éducation, la santé, la justice, la petite enfance et bien d'autres encore. Cette nouvelle entente n'est pas seulement une victoire pour la communauté francophone, mais aussi pour toute la province. Il témoigne de l'importance de la langue française en Alberta et reconnaît les nombreuses contributions de la francophonie au développement social, culturel et économique de notre province. Ensemble, continuons de bâtir un avenir prometteur pour la francophonie albertaine et pour les générations futures. Merci beaucoup.
All right. Just a reminder for the Q&A, please state your outlet and your name, who your question is directed to, and as always, 1 question, 1 follow-up. I will go to the floor first. Are there any questions from the floor? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go to the lines. Operator.
First question. La première question vient de Eve Côté à Radio-Canada.
Yes, hello. Thank you for taking my question. First question would be, I'd like to know a little bit more how you came up with that number. Why $11 million?
So with the funding, it's actually, if you're talking about the newly negotiated Canada-Alberta agreement on French language services, that's a funding increase of more than 200% for services in French. So it's from $650,000 per year to over $2 million per year over 6 years. I'm not sure if that's the number you were asking about.
Yes.
Follow up?
Yes. So I'd like to know how, if this money is going to go to the government services or to the Francophonie associations.
So the new thank you for the question. So the new funding will aid our government in completing the over 100 strategic actions that are set out in Alberta's French Policy Action Plan, which we released earlier this year. And this new and fair federal funding and the previous $4 million invested by our government into the Alberta Francophone Secretariat is going to help improve access to services in French in many key areas. But some of the key ministries, I would say, are early childhood, as Minister Turton talked about, education, health, and justice, just to name a few. Merci.
Do you have a follow-up?
Next question will be from Emmanuel Prince, Radio-Canada.
Hi, bonjour everyone. I'll ask my first question in English because for the minister, I'll have a follow-up in French for our SCFA people in the room. So, Minister Fur, I get that this announcement, this funding is an increase compared to what the deal with the feds was before. However, it's still about the same amount as, let's say, Nova Scotia, where there's 4 times less people and 3 times less francophones in Nova Scotia, and they have also announced an $11 million funding agreement. So how do you explain that Alberta, who has a big francophone community, one of the biggest actually outside of Quebec, as you mentioned in your news release, gets this amount of money and not more?
Thank you for the question. So yes, you're correct. We know Alberta has the 3rd largest French-speaking population outside of Quebec, and that continues to grow. And that's why we're proud of this increased amount of federal funding. Again, more than 200% increase. And that was after years of stagnant funding. So I want to commend the great work of the Francophone Secretariat in my ministry and the work they've done. We're pleased with this significant increase, but we will also continue to advocate for even more increased fair federal funding in the future.
You have a follow-up, Emmanuel?
Yep, a follow-up for Monsieur Brown de la CFA. Vous avez dit que ça va être une entente donc exceptionnelle, que ça va être mieux que par le passé. Pouvez-vous donner un exemple pour les francophones? Qu'est-ce qui va changer dans leur vie quotidienne avec ce nouvel argent?
Oui, merci pour la question. Alors, il y a certaines choses, bien sûr, qu'on sait vont améliorer. D'abord, l'expansion des services, des centres de ressources familiales francophones. Alors, partout dans la province, j'espère qu'il y aura une augmentation de ressources. Puis, ce qui est offert pour les familles francophones, des investissements pour la préservation du patrimoine. Alors, on est à l'approche du centenaire de la CFA. Alors, l'ajout d'une technicienne francophone aux archives provinciales, comme la ministre vient de mentionner, est un pas vraiment important vers la préservation de la patrimoine francophone. Il y a aussi des projets en services sociaux et santé mentale. On a amorcé un dialogue avec le gouvernement pour appuyer le développement des services sociaux et de santé mentale en français. Alors, ça, c'est juste quelques exemples, bien sûr, parmi plusieurs dans ces initiatives.
All right. Seeing no questions from the floor and exhausting our call-in list, that wraps up our amazing announcement for French Language Services. Let's give another round of applause.